After playing guitar for more than 30 years, I can happily say this exercise is the most practical and the most useful I have ever found. It gets all the fretting hand fingers firing, and it helps you break out of boring and predictable patterns. It gets the picking hand technique tight, clean, and fast, and it sounds good in any position on the neck and in any genre or style that you might be playing. So throughout this video, I'm going to show you how this exercise works, how to use it as an amazing warm-up exercise, how to use it as an amazing way to practice your scales, but I'll also show you what an amazing songwriting and compositional tool it is, and how it can really bring your solos or improvisations to life. And it doesn't matter if you're a beginner or an advanced guitarist, this technique and this exercise will make your playing sound better. So this exercise I'm going to show you is based on the idea of a pedal note. And a pedal note is a single note that we consistently or repeatedly hit whilst bouncing to other notes in the scale that we're playing. So let's look at how it works by first of all picking a scale. And for simplicity, we'll start with the C major scale in A form. Now that's the C major scale played over 2 octaves. If we just play up 1 octave and stop in the middle, we're going to use that C note there as our pedal point. And the easiest way to start the pedal is to simply play that note once and then bounce to the next note in the scale and keep returning back to that pedal note before moving on to the next note in the scale. For example. And back. And even just doing it simply like that, you can already start to see some of the amazing benefits of this exercise. First of all, when we're playing a scale normally, just up and back, we're generally using our fingers the same way every time. And that's what allows for the muscle memory to improve. So, you know, the fingers are always landing the same way pretty much. What's amazing about this pedal exercise is it forces the hand into some positions that it's not used to. It forces us out of these predictable ways of playing scales. It forces us to find new finger positions and more interesting sounds. And you can see this when we start moving to the other notes in the scale. So if I start with the 3rd finger, because of the shape of the hand and the position of the hand on the neck, it actually makes sense to bring the 2nd finger into play. Start with the 3rd, then the 2nd finger is ready to go. When we get to this moment, it's going to be hard for me to stretch up to this note. So here it makes sense to switch from the 2nd finger playing the pedal note to the 1st finger playing the pedal note. So and as I go backwards, look at how the finger playing the pedal note has to shift and the hand has to get to different positions to accommodate this technique. We can also extend now behind or below that pedal note and go down the octave like this. So you can see the fretting hand is getting a great workout, getting into some unusual positions, which actually help later on when we're looking for interesting or unusual phrasing with our melodies or improvisations. The picking hand is also getting a great workout because it's constantly moving between different strings, and sometimes it's even string skipping. So when we go between the pedal note and the top string, you know, we're going from the 3rd string to the 1st string, we've got to skip over that 2nd string, and that in itself is a fantastic technique to develop. And I've also created a free PDF which shows some of these scale forms as well as some fingerings that you might want to try. So if you're interested in that, the link is below. Now let's introduce a rhythmic variation. And what we're going to do here is we're going to pick 3 times on the pedal note before bouncing to the next note in the scale. So now the right hand's working, a fair bit harder because we've got a lot more picks in there. And at speed, this starts to sound really good. So we want to start off slow and get the technique clean. As we start feeling more confident and ramping it up through the different tempos, you'll hear it becomes a really great sound that is very usable in some of our playing. We can also create a great triplet feel by only picking twice on the pedal note before bouncing. And that gives us this kind of sound against a 4/4 pulse. 2, 3, 4. And what's great is once you get comfortable, sometimes picking 3 times on the pedal note, sometimes picking 2, sometimes picking maybe more, you get to start blending these. So that's the concept, that's how it works. But now we can start playing around with a lot more variations to make it even more usable in our playing. And one of the things we can change, firstly, is the pedal note. We don't have to use the root or the tonic. We can use another note. And really you can pick any note in the scale, but the ones that are often used are the other chord tones, so the 3 or the 5. Let's start with the 5. In this case, there's our G note there, the 5th. So we could start pedaling, again, still using the C major scale, we can start pedaling off that 5th note. 3, 4. If we take that idea and now do it off the 3rd. You really start to develop some great technique when you're getting your pick to move between the 2nd string and the 5th string, because you're string skipping over 2 strings in the middle there. But once you get that technique, being able to skip over strings with your melodic playing really opens up the fretboard and breaks you out of some of those old ways of playing that just sound like you're running scales or arpeggios. This really opens things up and gives you access to some new sounds. So we're playing the C major scale here. What if we play the C dominant scale or the Mixolydian scale? So we're going to flatten the 7th, and now we're going to have this sound. So that's the flattened 7th note we're introducing. And this scale works beautifully over dominant chords, but it also works beautifully in funk tunes. It works well in the blues. It's great in R&B. It's a scale that guitarists spend a lot of time with. Now that still sounds like an exercise, and you wouldn't really use that in a song or in a solo. It just sounds like you're, doing a drill. But where this becomes really useful in your playing is where you take little fragments of the exercise and insert those fragments into your melodies or into your solos. So we might just use the first 3 notes and then finish with something that's not the exercise. Finish with something that sounds more like we are improvising. For example. We could bring the triplets back and maybe go up to the flat 7 and then come back with some sort of bluesy little finish. Or we could start with a piece of improvisation and then finish with the exercise. However you want to use it, it generally sounds fantastic in little bursts. Get to know the exercise in its entirety, but then pick and choose which little parts you want to insert into your playing. Now, so far we've really been pedaling off the middle note in a 2-octave scale. What if we were to pedal more off the lowest note in the scale, the lowest root note? That gives us more of the riff sound that you hear in metal and rock, and it's a fantastic sound. So if we're playing in G minor, for example, to create a riff, what we can do is start bouncing off this lowest G note. So you can hear there that most of it is the pedal, but we've also got these other sounds in there as well. It's not just strictly using the exercise. And this is just something that I'm kind of working with on the fly. It's not a song. It's not something really that I've spent time preparing. It's just something that feels really good under the fingers and, you know, works well within that scale. So to break that down slowly, you've got, you know, that's just pedaling between really the second note and the flat third. And then we've got a little departure where we're using other notes in the scale. Back to this. And what I did there was I went, and we could of course do what we were doing earlier and take the other G note up the octave and pedal off that.